Hello, I'm Tracy Hillstrom, Vice President of Marketing Content Experience and Strategy at Watchguard. I'll be your host for today's training on Endpoint Security Market Overview. In this lesson, we want to focus on the problems faced by current and potential customers when they take on endpoint security. What threat landscape are they facing? What product technologies that they are trying to use to address those needs? And ultimately, present what we think are the most important considerations and differentiators when choosing an endpoint security solution. We'll start by considering the current threat landscape. Perhaps now, more than ever, the endpoint is a favorite target for cybercriminals. Endpoints have plenty of vulnerabilities to be exploited. Software versions are often out of date. They frequently are available on the internet without protection from corporate perimeter security, and users are not particularly security savvy, enabling hackers with an easy opportunity to make some money. Security professionals have options, and many, if not most, have deployed Endpoint AV at a minimum. But with a horde of criminals using automated attacks to compromise endpoints from afar so they can continue to ride them right into your networks, it's past the time when businesses of all sizes need to consider a more robust solution that includes endpoint AV protection integrated with advanced EDR technologies. Organizations need to protect themselves from more attacks with greater complexity than ever before. Any entry point into a network is vulnerable, requiring a growing number of intelligent security products working together as layered defenses in order to keep pace with today's hackers. Since 2006, we've experienced periods of drastic and consistent growth across the industry in different malware attacks. And this growth isn't limited to a specific sector or type of user. At WatchGuard Threat Labs, we've reported a dramatic increase of total malware since 2012. And in 2020, we're now seeing about 364,000 new attacks every day. That's about 15,000 threats every hour, 253 threats every minute, and 4 every second. We have to ask ourselves, why do cyber attacks flourish? We find there are a number of factors. This is really financial motivation. Secondly, because cyber attacks are cheaper, convenient, and less risky than ever. The increasing number of cyber attacks is motivated by the availability of tools in the internet to create your own exploit, malware, or other cyber attack technique. Cyber criminals only require a few expenses beyond a computer and internet connection. They are unconstrained by geography and distance. They're difficult to identify and prosecute due to the anonymous nature of the internet. Cyber criminals are looking for the easiest path into networks, and it doesn't matter to them whether it's at the network gateway, at the endpoint, a cloud-based application, or a user. Whichever of your defenses are weaker is where they will target, which is why it's more important than ever to implement comprehensive security solutions that work together to protect your networks, endpoints, and people. In the past, knowledge workers only had access to applications and data inside the corporate network perimeter, which were firewalled off from potential cyber threats. Today, an increasing remote workforce and the explosion of enterprise data and applications in the cloud have expanded the attack surface beyond the traditional network perimeter. In response, cyber attackers have adapted their attack methods and tools to directly target the endpoint. And Gartner estimates that 2 to 8% of corporate computers are now infected. For many businesses, this means that they now need to treat the endpoint as the next perimeter. Even as the rate of attacks increase, our ability to detect and remediate a threat grows longer. The longer it takes to detect a breach and notify the affected individuals about it, the higher the potential for damage becomes, allowing more time to steal information or funds. While undetected on a network, hackers also take the opportunity to install other malware or gain access to other parts of the network. On average, companies take about 197 days from the moment the bad actors get into the network to identify them, according to IBM's report in 2020. This is well known as the detection gap. So not only does effective security need to account for the growing attack volume and complexity, but it must also efficiently detect and respond to attacks that get past the preventative defenses. The cybersecurity skills gap has plagued enterprises for years, but despite garnering much discussion and media coverage, little progress is being made. As for the exact number of openings, the estimates vary, but none of them look good. There may be as many as 1.5 million unfilled cybersecurity positions, and there are estimations that affirm this indicator will hit 3.5 million unfilled positions by 2021. As a result, cybersecurity professionals currently in the field are facing serious pressure and long working hours, and can't keep pace with the never-ending stream of security alerts that need attention. And this may be a contributing factor to the growing detection gap. At the same time that 82% of organizations suffer from some sort of staffing impact to their security teams, organizations are collecting a huge amount of data and alerts meant to help address the mounting risk of a breach. This exacerbates the problem as organizations try to hire more people who can create adequate context for the data and investigate hundreds of alerts in order to be able to provide high-fidelity security information. With finite human resources and seemingly infinite threats, IT administrators and security teams easily get overwhelmed. As a result, businesses are forced to ignore security alerts worthy of further investigation because they don't have the staff and expertise to handle them. The adoption of tools that automate data capture can help with the issue. These also increase the level of prioritized security information available to IT teams, greatly minimizing the risk of security breaches and the subsequent damage to targeted companies. If you've been following along so far, you're seeing an escalating pattern that's quickly taking security professionals to a crisis point. More attacks that are more complex and seem to be coming from every network system is a tough problem already. But now add that endpoints are increasingly targeted and are difficult to manage since they're frequently taken outside of the perimeter protection of the corporate network and often compromised by misguided user actions. Their reality goes from bad to worse as they spend more time than they have cleaning up after infections that have lingered too long and made remediation harder than it would have been if caught earlier. But even when they deploy a system meant to detect infections earlier, they're buried in alerts and can't find any qualified security staff to help them take all of this on. This isn't the way things have to be, as we'll start to learn in the next section. So with a handful of difficult problems to address, users are on the hunt for technologies that can help to increase their security posture without demanding more from an already overworked security team. Let's take a look at their options. Most have turned to traditional endpoint antivirus, which is commonly considered as baseline protection. These solutions are what we've used for literally decades to protect our endpoints. We rely on this protection to detect known malware and give us the low-hanging fruit level of protection across our environments while using signatures and hashes to detect known malware at the endpoints. It doesn't provide any level of proactive protection, and so doesn't find new threats or detect the newest emerging techniques. But still, it's a necessary basic level of protection. Every endpoint should have some kind of anti-malware that ideally is simple, lightweight, easy to deploy, easy to maintain, performs well, and is inexpensive. Every endpoint security strategy should start with a foundation of traditional AV and build on top of it with more comprehensive prevention, detection, and response capabilities in order to address the greater threat landscape and the current security reality. Beyond traditional endpoint AV is a completely different approach based on the proactive detection of threat actors in the network. These solutions are called endpoint detection and response, and they are built to provide endpoint visibility and are used to detect and respond to cyber threats and exploits. They provide an accurate first-hand view of a hacking operation as it unfolds. They collect telemetry events gathered from the endpoints for critical forensic analysis. This data includes process actions, file access information, network events, and endpoint configuration changes. They are also monitored and used by analysts to spot abnormal behaviors that are indicative of malicious activity. Some EDR products, like with Watchguard's solution, use technology to make EDR scalable and manageable even when faced with a cybersecurity skills deficit. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is helping under-resourced security operations analysts stay ahead of threats. AI provides instant insights to help them fight through the noise of thousands of daily alerts, drastically reducing response times. Enabling automated prevention, detection, and response in a scalable way relies on combining a full stack of EPP and EDR capabilities and high-value features such as our Zero Trust service and threat hunting service. These solutions make use of AI and deep learning and are key to deploying a Zero Trust model within the network. The Zero Trust application service automates the classification of every single binary running at the endpoint, denying the execution of any untrusted one. This classification occurs in near real time and mostly before or even during their execution. The classification arises as a result of a proprietary ensemble of adaptive models. Each model is designed to predict the classification of processes with algorithms working together on thousands of statistics, dynamic and contextual flags. The ensemble model increases the accuracy of the results, providing zero false positives and maximum confidence. But even a robust EDR solution can't rely on machine learning technologies for all determinations. Sometimes it just takes a human brain to spot a hacker, especially since the advent of fileless, living-off-the-land attacks. Threat hunters apply their honed skills to pick up on these newer techniques, and advanced EDR solutions can offer these services as part of their solution, making it easier for organizations to deploy EDR without the burden of alert fatigue. Some of these security solutions also use contextual-based prevention and detection technology to block a fileless attack based on scripts embedded in Office files, as well as attackers using living-off-the-land techniques. It spots the misusage of existing applications at the endpoint to bypass the security control and gain access to the system or move laterally to other endpoints. Another endpoint security technology called anti-exploit technology protects network computers against threats capable of leveraging vulnerabilities in installed software. These vulnerabilities can be exploited to cause anomalous behaviors in applications, leading to security failures on customers' networks. These exploits leverage both known and unknown vulnerabilities, triggering a chain of events often referred to as the cyber kill chain to compromise these systems. The technology blocks this chain of events effectively and in real time, neutralizing exploit attacks and rendering them harmless. For example, our product, Watchguard EPDR, continually monitors all actions in memory taken by the processes run on users' computers in order to detect the vulnerability exploit techniques used by hackers. This strategy goes beyond the traditional approach used by other security products that simply search for patterns and statically detect CVE payload pairs through signature files. In this way, Watchguard EPDR can protect unpatched applications. We've shared some of the technology options available to organizations when considering endpoint security. However, in advanced endpoint solutions, these skills come together in a layered approach. Advanced endpoint security platforms don't rely on just one single technology. They implement several together to reduce the opportunity for a threat actor to have success. Working in concert, these technologies utilize resources both at the endpoint and in the cloud to minimize the risk of a breach. Now let's share an example of how an advanced endpoint security solution can be used to benefit customers looking to move their security posture to follow the Zero Trust paradigm. Implementing a Zero Trust model means that you assume that every file or executable is potentially damaging. This means that your network traffic and productive work can come to a halt or be significantly delayed if there are not sophisticated technology that is able to differentiate safe traffic from harmful traffic in a relatively fast way. This classification process is a key feature that makes a zero trust environment work in the real world. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the next slides. And a layered security solution, as we discussed in the previous section, to look at a wide range of indicators that can unlock the intent of the file or executable, is at the core of any 100% classification system. To further illustrate this point, here's a high-level view of the security processes that our endpoint security solution uses to identify and respond to different types of malware, so that we can classify and action each potential threat correctly. So let's dig a little deeper into why a classification service is so necessary to provide a real zero-trust model. This graphic shows the set of executable files which may run in an endpoint. The predominant model today is based on blocking what is known to be bad, investigating what is suspicious, and allowing what is not known. Unfortunately, this policy generates more risk because malware commonly morphs and becomes zero-day malware that then gets through your defenses with other unknown traffic. In addition, suspicious traffic is burdensome, requiring significant effort to investigate and release the file. Alternatively, our approach is based on a default deny posture for untrusted executables, and on the automated classification of all of them. Every program is monitored and analyzed, and all behavior is verified by analysts in our lab if needed. And we even provide the resulting analysis to our customers as a service. This means that all suspicious or unknown files are filtered using our special algorithms in our cloud platform and testing or analysis so that all executables are known as goodware or malware. In the end, customers only receive confirmed alerts and maximum protection, all with much less effort. The approach is totally transparent to end users who don't need to rely on special configurations or skills, or to look for additional specialized resources. This is our Zero Trust application service, and it's a hugely powerful differentiator. Let's go even a little deeper, using this simple diagram to explain how Watchguard endpoint security technologies work together to provide an exceptional protection against today's malware and other kinds of cyber attacks. As we've already discussed, Watchguard EDR works by classifying all executable files at the protected endpoints, allowing only the trusted ones to be executed. But prior to triggering the service, there are some traditional techniques applied locally as pre-execution tasks. These techniques are well known for detecting known malware, including checking against known signatures, local cache, behavioral heuristics, and known indicators of attack, better known internally as contextual rules. If nothing is detected with these techniques, the endpoints start checking with the in-the-cloud technologies. Step 2. In our cloud platform, it's checked against our collection of file reputation information, which is where all information on known goodware and malware files is consolidated and continuously updated with new files, as well as information from threat intelligence feeds and even real-world files found in our customers' environments, including both consumer and businesses. If the response is malware, the process is stopped here by simply denying its execution. Any executables that are not determined to be malware at this step, including both unknown files and those thought to be goodware, are sent to our cloud system for machine learning classification. Step 3. Here, our machine learning algorithms use events in our data lake to give a classification. The machine learning system is able to derive decisions on new content to 99.98% of classification automatically. That's how we're able to scale so quickly to support a huge number of worldwide deployments. When the cloud-based learning solution takes a decision on a file, the results are fed back into our collective intelligence so that it continues to add to the billions and billions of known good and bad binaries. This is how we make quick cloud lookups with the next endpoint that sees the same binary and is the foundation of the scalability of our services. Step 4. For the 0.02% of the time when the machine learning algorithms aren't able to make a determination, we put this in front of our analysts, which is how we get to 100% classification. It's a very small subset, but when you have new attack patterns, new threats, or emerging threats, it's valuable for our security experts to take a look at it. In the end, these decisions are sent back into the machine learning system to continue to drive classification and grow our collective intelligence. This is really the secret sauce of how we drive strong, advanced protection on the endpoint. The effect since the introduction of this Zero Trust service in our installed base has been a continuous decrease in the number of malware infections across customers, despite increasing our installed base every year. This chart from our labs shows the weekly number of incidents escalated by customers, and we can see that as of last year, the number trends to 0. This is the consequence of drastically reducing the attack surface with layered security and Zero Trust service. Now that we've reviewed some key information about the endpoint security marketplace and technology options, we'll take a deeper dive into the Watchguard endpoint security product offering in the next lesson. It will be helpful to remember these key points about the problems and security needs for today's IT professionals, the difference between AV and EDR solutions, and the differentiation between EDR solutions and what really matters for organizations looking to move to a Zero Trust security posture. Thank you for your attention, and please proceed to the next lesson.